good morning. My name is Susan Joseph. Today I'm presenting a book review, The World is Flat, by Thomas L. Friedman. About the author. Thomas Loren Friedman is an American political commentator and author. He is a 3-time Pulitzer Prize winner who is a weekly columnist for the New York Times. He has written extensively on foreign affairs, global trade, the Middle East, globalization, and environmental issues. Now let's look into the summary of the book. He uses the phrase, "the world is flat," as a metaphor. Although at times it may seem like the world got flat almost overnight, that's not exactly the case. According to Friedman, globalization has so far gone through 3 distinct phases. With each phase of globalization, the world became just a tiny bit flatter. Friedman explains that the first phase of globalization took place from 1492 to 1800, during which European countries opened up trade with each other and with the New World. This first phase was largely driven by military expansion, and success depended on the amount of raw manpower and horsepower countries could employ. The second phase was from 1800 to 2000, where multinational corporations drove global integration. The dominant technologies were railways and autos. In the current phase, which Friedman terms Globalization 3.0, individuals, as opposed to countries or multinational corporations, are now the key driving force. And the defining technology of our era is a worldwide network of fiber optic cable capable of transmitting reams of electronic data from one end of the globe to the other in seconds. Today, with the explosion of new technologies, the flattening process is in overdrive. In his book, Friedman explains 10 flatteners concept which helps to create globalization. The first flattener is fall of the Berlin Wall. The first event was November 9, 1989, the day the Berlin Wall came down. Friedman sees this as a critically important date because, for the first time in modern history, it enabled people to begin thinking of the world as a single space. Second flattener is the Internet. On August 9, 1995, the day Netscape, the first commercial Internet browser, went public. This brought the Internet alive by giving us a badly needed tool to display images and data stored on websites. Moreover, says Friedman, the Netscape IPO also triggered the dot-com boom, which led to the dot-com bust, which triggered a massive overinvestment of billions of dollars in fiber optic telecommunications cable. Third flattener is the workflow software. Many software developments, standards, and protocols enable computers and other digital devices to interact over the Internet so that work and other projects can be done by people anywhere in the world. The fourth flattener, as mentioned by Friedman, is uploading. Uploading is Friedman's word for people creating content and contributing to the Internet. This document is an example. Perhaps the most significant is the development of open-source software. Hierarchy and organization are not required. Quality content and work product can come from anywhere. Meanwhile, the fifth flattener is outsourcing. In this era, all kinds of work can be digitized and shifted to any place in the world where it can be done faster and cheaper. Friedman recounts the story of Jack Welch at GE, forcing his IT people to contract out some of their work to Indian vendors, starting a tidal wave of change. Friedman mentioned offshoring as his sixth flattener. With instant and virtually cost-free global transmission of data and communication, companies can place each business department responsible for one part of the value chain in the most productive geographic location. Seventh flattener is supply chaining. The rapid, accurate global movement of components and finished goods is now possible on an unimaginable scale. Friedman describes a Walmart distribution center as an example, and the eighth flattener explained by Friedman is insourcing. Insourcing happens when you let a well-run company like FedEx or UPS come inside your company and take over your whole logistics operation. Everything from filling your orders online to delivering your manufactured goods to repairing them for customers when they break. The ninth flattener is informing. These are the search engines like Google, Yahoo, and MSN Search, which now allow anyone to find and access virtually unlimited piles of data all by themselves. Lastly, Friedman mentions steroids as the 10th flattener, which include voice over internet and wireless internet access. Basically, what wireless does is it turbocharges all of the new forms of collaboration, so you can now do any one of them, from anywhere, with an ever-expanding array of tiny handheld devices. Critiques about Friedman's concept of the is flat. I find that Friedman's image of a flat Earth is profoundly misleading. A view of the world from a seat in business class. Flatness is another way of describing the transnational search by companies for cheap labor, an image that misses the pervasiveness of global inequality and the fact that much of the developing world remains caught up in poverty and misery. It also misses the importance of the global geopolitical hierarchy, which guarantees the provision of stability, property rights, and other international public goods. The rise of China and India is less about flatness than it is about dramatic upheavals in the mountains and valleys of the global geopolitical map. In my opinion, if globalization 3.0 is about individuals, and for sure it is, and this erodes the centrality of government, then what exactly is the role of government? Why, for that matter, should government even be involved in this process? I ask this not to be a contrarian libertarian, but because I'm baffled by the contradiction inherent in this book. It spends hundreds of pages telling us about how the flattening of the Earth has freed us from national boundaries, and the rest of it telling us what governments, which are defined by those very boundaries, should do. So, is the genie out of the bottle or not? Lastly, I feel Friedman is so focused on India, China, Eastern Europe, and the US that he forgets the rest of the world. Africa gets a sad acknowledgement, and no more. I don't recall reading anything about South America, but his myopia is especially unfortunate when it comes to Western Europe and Australia. To conclude the book review, I personally feel that some elements will prevent the world from actually becoming flat. In order to acquire absolute globalization, these unflattens will have to be overcome first. They are poverty, USA versus world economy, half-flat world, Middle East, digital divide, suppression and tribalization.